What's up, y'all? Welcome to Conversation Piece with Patrick Armstrong. I am the titular Patrick, and this is a show where we talk about the missing pieces of the conversations we're already having. Shout out to all our returning listeners, and a high five and hello to everybody joining us for the very first time. I appreciate y'all so much. My guest today is an educator, a teacher, which I think is the same thing as an educator. She is an amazing person, and she also happens to be my wife and the mother of our future child. It is my privilege and honor to welcome that person, Emily Armstrong, to the show. Hey, wife.
Hi.
I just got super nervous bringing you onto the show. That was strange. That was strange. I feel like I don't necessarily feel that when I have other guests on, but
My first
now
time.
I feel like I have to be nervous, I guess. I don't know. For people watching on YouTube, you can see that we are shooting in a different location this time. Mm-hmm. We are coming to you live from our living room. You very well may see our cat, Vladimir, coming into the shot, or hear him. That is very possible. Really excited about this episode and this conversation. One more until our final episode of 2023, which is going to be our holiday recap where we talk about your top 5 episodes of the year. Thank you, everybody who has been voting. Really appreciate that. Really surprised at some of the results so far, so that's going to be exciting. But today, we are not here to talk about any of that, but make sure you do go vote. Link in all the bios. Excited to have you on. Thank you for making the time. Thank you for allowing us to work in our own space, in our own house to do this. And as we start all of our conversations, for folks watching or listening who don't know who you are, do you mind sharing a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. I'm Emily Armstrong, Patrick's wife. I am an educator. I have worked in education for the past 7 years, formerly as an 8th grade English teacher. Currently this year, I am working as an instructional coach where I write and create curriculum for the English department. And then I also spend a lot of my time working in the special education department, specifically working with students with ED.
And you come from a family of teachers.
I do. My entire family is educators. They warned me many times to not go into education and go into nursing or something else, and I chose to ignore it. But yeah, no, my mom is an educator. My uncle is a principal. My grandpa was my superintendent when I was growing up. So school has always kind of felt like home to me. It's a very comfortable place. I've spent a lot of time in different schools. So, so I work in education.
That's it. Education, a big part of your identity for sure.
It is.
Conversations that we've had a lot. And it makes holiday conversation small talk very easy because you can just talk to them about all the teacher stuff.
Yeah, I do feel bad for the spouses sometimes because my family and I will get into educator talk and talking about students or curriculum or what have you, and the spouses just kind of sit there quietly. So,
well, we have our own conversations.
Sure.
It's totally fine. And your family's also super competitive, which we'll probably talk about a little bit, which is how I was welcomed into this family.
Yep.
Through competition. But in that vein, a lot of questions that I get are, how did you two meet? So I wanted to start with our origin story, and I don't know. Do you want to take that? Do you want to tell that story? I think you tell it slightly better than I do.
So Patrick and I have kind of known of each other since probably 2013. We grew up very close, about 30 minutes away from each other, but didn't know each other in high school or anything. But just with the small network that comes with growing up in smaller towns, knew of each other from different places. I actually really was a fan of Patrick. For those of you who maybe don't know, Patrick had a music career. Check him out on SoundCloud. But he put out a lot of music. He rapped over different beats as well as kind of taking samples from different collections and putting his own lyrics on top of them. And he would release that out on Twitter and SoundCloud. And I thought his stuff was dope.
You always put me on blast for that. I've been retired for a while. I think most people know.
So I would message him a few times or like his post or whatever. And then, so I guess our circles were just like kind of came past. And then I don't know, in maybe like 2016,
so I think it was 2015. 2016 after I came back from San Diego.
Okay.
Right after I moved back.
So, there was a music festival called Forecastle in Louisville, and Florence and the Machine.
No, Bunbury.
Bunbury. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Bunbury. Oh, Cincinnati.
Yeah, you're right.
Wow.
We did go to Forecastle.
We did go to Forecastle, but yeah.
You cried to Maggie Rogers.
Yep. And Florence and the Machine was headlining among Of Monsters and Men, Bayside, just a lot of bands that we both enjoyed. And he posted on Twitter, like, who's going with me? And I just, look at me just like out here making moves. I just like slid in and was like, if you drive, I'll go. And so we went, and we had never hung out like individually at all. I knew he was like a safe person. Like I had been around him in group settings and stuff. I felt very comfortable. So we went to the music festival. We hung out. When Florence came on, I was like, I'm going the front. And he was like, I'm not into that. And I'm like, all right, I'll see you at the car. And just ditched him.
That's literally what happened.
And kind of just ditched him. So then we drove home, and then he dropped me off, and I literally didn't hear from him for an entire year.
I didn't hear from you either. Don't put that all on me.
We did not talk at all for an entire year. And then, I don't know. I think you hit me up randomly after that, maybe about like Game of Thrones or something.
Let me interject real quick and ask a question. When you originally slid into the DMs about going to see Florence, was that a flirtatious slide?
No.
Okay, it was just like, let's just go to this concert.
It was like, I had known just like based off social media that we had similar music taste. True. And like, I always saw that you like were going to shows, and I was really into the music scene as well. And so I just knew that we would have a good time, and I was interested in going to the concert, and no one else of my friend group was down. So I was like,
that is true.
Let's go.
Okay, so we are now a year after this moment. I have hit you up randomly to hang out. Uh-huh. I don't know that I had ulterior motives at that point in time. I don't think it was just like, this girl's hot. Let's reconnect. And let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens. I think this is one of your favorite parts of the story.
Yeah,
to tell.
So then we proceed to go on, I would say, 22 dates.
Okay, the other day you said 27, so I feel better about 22.
It's in the 20s, for sure. But those dates are very like friends, but now we're starting to flirt, kind of. And so we have lunch plans or something, and I tell my roommate, again, we've been out at this point over 20 times. I tell my roommate, Kelsey, that you're either, on this date, I just had a feeling that you were either going to say, I'm into you more than a friend, we should progress, or you're going to be like, I just really enjoy your friendship. So I get to the lunch and we're chatting, and neither of those things happen. Instead, you say, I'm moving to Houston. I'm like, oh, okay.
Whip out a camera out of my new backpack and say, I'm going to go take pictures and volunteer in Houston.
Yeah, Hurricane Harvey had just hit, and so Patrick wanted to work at a food bank, and upped and moved away. And so then he moved to Houston, and we corresponded, and at that point, I'm getting now floods of texts and calls. Just
I really knew
and he would drive back to Indianapolis to see me, and I would finally at one point I'm like, what are we doing? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? So
you did put out, we had one, we went out in a Broad Ripple for a day, and it was rainy like it is today.
Yep.
And I'll never forget, we sat down in one of the corner places by the bar and had just the worst time. And I remember us walking away, and after that one, and I was like, I should turn around and run after her and be like, hey, like, yes. And then I kept looking back, and I just kept walking away. And I was like, oh, this is over.
Yep.
But it wasn't over.
Nope.
It continued on.
Yep.
Finally worked up the courage to... Actually, I told people at a certain point that we were boyfriend and girlfriend after coming back from Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, we started hanging out like for real.
Yeah, for
and
real.
It was a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then I started telling people that we were boyfriend girlfriend before we had established that.
Yeah, I always say we did like a long will they, won't they.
Very long.
Yeah.
It was very long.
The long game.
And then a random day in April 21st.
April 21st.
April 21st, I said, let's do it. And then we were hanging out, and then we moved to Chicago.
Yep.
And then we came back from Chicago, got engaged in Chicago, came back from Chicago, got married here in Indianapolis, and now here we are, expecting our first child in a month and a half.
Yep.
Very exciting. Well, thank you for sharing that origin story of ours. Always got to put me on blast for the rap career.
I feel like I'm hyping you up.
I do appreciate it. You all. It is always very much hype. It is never like.
I am very supportive of a continuation.
She is always trying to get me to freestyle when we're in the car.
Yeah, if we're on like a long drive and like the beat is right, sometimes he'll like throw something down over it, and I'll be like, all right.
Yeah. Oh, we'll link it in the show notes. I'll link my SoundCloud in the show notes for people to look at. It feels like every time I try and bring it back a little bit. What was your stage name again?
Pat
I just
the
used my real
Prodigy?
name. Oh, that was old school. When I first started, it was Pat the Prodigy, and then I had to pay reverence to Mobb Deep and drop the Prodigy, which I talk about in one of my over Shook Ones Part 2 freestyle. I dropped the Prodigy officially in that one, so it was just my name.
Yeah. During COVID, we kind of had like a little pod group that we hung out with, and that's where I learned to play euchre. Very important. But also the two of the guys also like to rap. So it was we'd be playing euchre and the three guys would just be throwing bars. And it was really
good.
fun.
I like it. I like when people try and freestyle. Like it's fun. Even if that's not their thing.
Yeah.
It's fun to do. All right, yeah, we'll talk about more of that later, maybe. In preparation for this baby, we just took a trip to New York, and we just got back from that yesterday as of recording. Had a great time. It was a little baby moon, and I wanted to ask you two questions. The first one being, what was the funnest thing that you think we did in New York? This is the first time, so for context, this is the first time we've been together. We've both been to New York separately on different occasions, but this is the first time we went together on just like an actual vacation. So the funnest thing that you think we did?
Thing that we
funnest.
did. This was actually my first time staying in Brooklyn. I've always stayed in Manhattan prior, and I really liked Brooklyn. I felt like there was just as much to do and see. The people were really creative and interesting. It also felt less touristy and like more walkable, where in Manhattan it's like massive crowds, especially I'm assuming at this time of year. So I guess I would say like staying in Brooklyn was really fun to me, and I really enjoyed. We also got to have a really nice dinner with Alicia and her husband, Dave, and their daughter, Coco.
Yep, that was a good time.
Which was a great time, and Coco was a big fan of Patrick, so that was also really enjoyable.
Shout out to Coco. Shout out Alicia and Dave for taking us out for dinner. That was a good time. Our Brooklyn day was really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed Brooklyn too. Quiet.
Yeah.
Felt like very quiet compared to my other times being in New York. Yeah. So I really enjoyed that. Okay, my second question is a hot take question. Honest opinion about Rockefeller Plaza.
Underwhelming. Yeah. So when we planned this trip to New York, I was like, we got to go see the Rockefeller tree. It's that time of year, whatever.
That was like a one thing.
Yeah,
that was like the big thing we were planning.
And so, we went and did it, and it was It was beautiful, but it was definitely one of those like Instagram versus reality moments. Like our pictures look great, but it was slam packed. You could barely move, wall to wall of people. And I don't know, yeah, like maybe had we ice skated or something, there would have been that like Christmas vibe. But I did feel like it was maybe a tad underwhelming. But I mean, I'm glad that we still did it and checked it off. I don't know that I like need to go back. But I kind of feel the same about like Times Square. Like if I never walk through Times Square again, I think that's okay. Like it's one of those things like you've done it. Okay.
It was like warm too a little bit.
Yeah.
And but then there was like hundreds of thousands of people. And I felt like I was in a bar, except nobody was drunk and everyone was just trying to take pictures and were maybe more rude than people that were drunk in a bar.
Yeah, I guess good point about the weather. We did, which was great. We had unseasonably warm weather and the sun, it was like 55 and sunny. So maybe that did take away a bit from like the Christmas charm or the holiday spirit of it all.
Sure.
But
okay, a follow-up I just thought of, navigating New York, especially our like Manhattan, Soho, Chinatown day, navigating as a pregnant person. How did you feel like that went?
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, it was a lot of walking. My feet were pretty swollen when we got back. I think we walked 7.5 miles, and I'm currently 34 weeks pregnant. So it was quite a bit of walking, but no, I felt it was very doable. Obviously, everybody's body is different. Everybody's activity level is different, but it didn't feel challenging or overwhelming for me. But
well, I felt like you moved around good. Like bathroom breaks are a real thing in our family. So
we definitely did have to be strategic with the bathroom breaks.
Well, that's the thing. It's not like Indy where there's a bunch of
like public restrooms. Yeah,
it's like you go to a coffee shop, they might not even have a bathroom.
Right.
And so we had to be very strategic about that. But I had a good time. I agree about Rockefeller. It was underwhelming. The tree, I felt like, was underwhelming. I saw somebody post about it, and it's like, it's giving tree. And I'm like, yeah, it's just a tree. Like, it's not even, it didn't feel overly large.
It didn't feel as grandiose.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, I said it when we were there, but the Hawkeye show has a scene there.
Yeah.
And the tree felt so much bigger. But maybe that's because there was, like, no people out there in the thing. Like, Instagram versus reality.
Yeah.
So, kind of disappointing. I hope that's not a hot take. I hope that's not a cancelable take. But I agree.
Go see the tree.
Sure.
If you want to see the tree, go see the tree.
If you want to see a tree, we can turn the camera around and look at our fake Christmas tree that we have here. Looks about the same. If I'm being honest. Looks almost the same. All right. Well, we're going to move on to kind of a rapid fire segment. These are questions that I came up with over the past few days that I wanted to ask you that you can answer as quickly as you want. You can give some elaboration. I might ask some follow-ups, but some fun questions, I feel like.
Okay.
To get to know you a little bit more, get to know maybe me a little bit more, and also to test your knowledge on one question in particular. I'm really excited to ask. All right. So this is segment to be named. First question. Baby names that didn't make the cut.
Ooh.
We have a name picked out. We're not telling anybody except for her therapist and her hairdresser, I guess, which is fine, apparently. But we have a name picked out. We're very excited
salty about that.
I am a little salty. But I wanted to ask you, because I feel like you had a good list. So I want to know just a couple or more, or your favorite ones that didn't make the cut. And maybe if you wanted to elaborate, you can.
The only reason I'm hesitant is because if we were to have a second, maybe I wanted to use them.
Ooh, okay. All right, baby
but
names.
I'll share. You
can share some. You don't have to get too deep into it.
So for me, Griffin Theodore Armstrong was on the list for a while. Theodore or Teddy would be Patrick's grandpa's name. I just think Griff is cute. Because of our last name being, to me, it obviously has the word strong in it, but it's like a heavier last name. I feel like
9 letters.
Yeah, I gravitated towards like more one syllable or shortened first names. I I really like the name Aslan. Patrick didn't really like that. If anyone doesn't know, that's from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
We ain't Narnia.
But I really like the name Aslan. We talked about Jack for a while. Just classic name.
Classic American name.
Yeah, just like classic, short, one syllable. I don't know. Oh, I mean, we had quite a few girls' names. I don't know if it's because the educator in me, but name selection can be a little bit difficult because there's a lot of associations with names. And, for whatever reason, I found myself liking a lot more feminine names than masculine names. I told Alicia at dinner, and she agreed with me that sometimes when you're thinking about a boy name, you're like, that sounds like a guy I wouldn't date. And so they're like, not,
I would not date any guys named Griff. So I'm glad we didn't go with that one.
Yeah.
We'll keep the girl names close to the vest in case we do have a girl if we do end up having a second child. I like some of the girl names. I liked a lot more of the girl names than the guy names.
Yeah. I feel like of the boys' names that I shared they're ones that I liked that I know that we won't use.
Sure. I definitely shut one of them down. So,
yeah.
All right. Most annoying thing about me.
Oh, wow. Probably the fact that you take your shoes off, and even though we have a perfectly positioned shoe rack right next to the door, they still are all over the house.
I feel like that's a recency bias thing that just happens.
That happens all the time.
I'm surprised that's not what I thought you were going to say.
Oh, okay. Another one is that you take your pajamas and put them right next to the laundry basket instead of in the laundry basket.
All right. I don't know why I asked this question. Okay. Well, those I'll take those. That's not bad. That's not bad annoying. That's just like a me thing.
No, Patrick's actually very, very tidy, which I appreciate. I'm a Virgo, and I'm very organized and very detail-oriented, and I'm very visually, I don't know, aware, and I like things pretty orderly. So, I feel really lucky that Patrick is also like that in a lot of ways and is very tidy.
I appreciate that. Neither of those were what I thought you were going to say, although they track.
What did you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to say something about my poop humor, my feces humor.
That wasn't going to come out of my mouth.
I am a child. Maybe that's an exclusive conversation for our paid newsletter subscribers. We'll get into that later.
No one wants to hear it.
Okay, next question. Your biggest pet peeve, just in general.
Oh.
That is not my shoes or my pajamas. It doesn't have to be about me. Just biggest pet peeve for you.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I knew, but now that you just asked me, I can't name it.
I just watched a video that says when you have that happen, you're supposed to just talk about anything else.
Really?
Or think about anything else, and it'll generally come to you. So do you want to move to a next question?
Sure, maybe.
Okay, because I feel like you're going to be... Yeah, we'll circle back to that. We'll circle back to the pet peeve. All right. Which competition reality TV show would you most want to be on / which competition reality TV show would you feel most confident to win? So two-parter.
This is a hard question. So if you don't know, my favorite genre of television is competition reality. If it's out there, I've probably watched it. Definitely the one that I think I'm the most in position to win is Big Brother. Because I'm a social creature. I generally feel like I can chat with lots of different people. Also, the challenges I feel like I could do. There's only a few of the physical challenges that I think would be really difficult for me. Unlike maybe Survivor with all the swimming would be a lot harder for me to do. On
the spot, Big Brother one-liner audition tape. Go.
No.
Okay. Come on. All right.
But I have to say my favorite competition reality show to watch is Drag Race.
Would you want to be on that show?
No, I'm not a drag queen.
Well, which one would you want to most be on?
Big Brother.
You want to be on that one, and you feel most confident that you would win that
Absolutely.
one. Okay, all right. Well, you have watched all the Big Brothers. You also said that if there's a competition reality show that's out there, you've probably seen it. You feel confident that you've seen nearly every competition reality TV show? Okay.
No.
Well, that was a big flex.
And I will say, like, the most of the ones I watch are, like, I like the, like, Big Brother Survivor game show category, but I also really enjoy, like, anything that's, like, design related. So, like, home interior, makeup, like, beauty, fashion, that kind of thing. I don't have that skill set. I definitely wish I could sew and create and design. But
all right, one more follow-up. Biggest or favorite queen from Drag Race?
Jinx Monsoon.
Oh, yeah.
Is that an easy answer?
I don't know. I don't watch the show like you do.
Yeah, Jinx Monsoon. I mean, winner of winners.
Let us know in the comments if that's an easy answer, if that's a cop-out answer. Let us know.
Yeah.
I want to know. Circling back, pet peeve. Did you think of it?
The wrong your. I don't know.
I'm
an English teacher.
Is that really it?
I don't know. I don't enjoy that though.
Okay. That was not what I thought. I don't know what I thought you were going to say. To be honest, I don't know what your biggest pet peeve is.
I don't either at this moment.
Just the wrong your.
I can't think of one at the moment.
Feels like a blooper answer. All right, fine. That's not what I thought you were going to say. Okay. My last question for this particular segment, to be named, is the test your knowledge question. I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Okay.
And this is going to be potentially go viral in my community. What does John Chi mean?
It means it means feast.
Okay, putting in the clapping sound effects. Bonus question: do you know the other word that it means that we just found out recently?
To like celebrate or gather.
That's part of the original.
Okay.
Also means banquet. We found.
Oh.
So we've been calling ourselves the Banquet Boys.
Okay,
this is
that's
for my other
fun.
podcast, The John Chi Show, which I'm assuming the people listening to this also listen to. All right, I thought that was going to stump you. I'm not going to lie. How many episodes of The John Chi Show have you listened to?
Maybe 3 or 4.
How many episodes do you think we have?
Over 100.
155,
Good
I
job,
think we're
guys.
close to. Yeah. 3
Okay,
years, that's
I
a
will
lot.
say I listen to you record.
That's true.
So I get to hear the unedited version often. So yeah, no, but me like going to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and clicking play, not very often.
Is it rude?
But very often do I hear them being recorded. So
Is it rude that I thought you weren't going to get that right?
it's okay.
That is hilarious. I just know that she doesn't really listen to the show like my mom does, who's listening to this right now.
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
Hi, Cheryl.
Congratulations. I'm excited that you got that one right. Better than your pet peeve answer, the wrong your. I'm not here for that. I know you got different ones than that. But okay, that was segment to be named because I don't have a name for it yet, but it was good. I thought those were good answers. And people know now about you from a competition reality standpoint. So Big Brother, if you need somebody, she's on the couch right now. She couldn't come up with a one-line audition, but have her on the show. So, okay, we're going to move into the back part of this episode. Generally, we talk about the missing pieces of the conversations we already have on this show. For this show, we're doing a little bit different. I had the audience in the week leading up to this episode send in some questions that we can answer. And we got some pretty good ones. So I don't know if we're going to get to all of them today or in this conversation, but we're going to try and get to some of them. And I appreciate everyone who sent in a question. I thought a lot of these were really, really good. So I've got a few I'm going to ask you. You have a few that you can ask me. And then we have a couple for both of us. So I'm going to ask you a question first, and then you can ask me one, and we'll go back and forth. First question. Did you grow up around a diverse group of people, or is it just white spaces like I grew up in?
I definitely grew up in more white spaces.
I guess we kind of touched upon it when our talking about how we grew up like 30 minutes apart.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in a smaller town than Patrick did, if you can believe that. I think the last time I checked, our population was like 800, and we don't even have a stoplight.
No stoplight.
So yeah, yes, no, I grew up in a very homogenous place. But I do feel like I was very privileged and lucky in a lot of ways that I was able to travel a lot. I'm an only child and my mom is a teacher. And so every summer we always took trips and we went to a lot of different places. And so from a pretty young age, I was able to see a lot of different people, lifestyles, cities, backgrounds. And so when I would come back to my hometown, I knew that something else was out there, and I knew that where I was growing up wasn't the world, it wasn't a reflection of what every place was like. And so I kind of always describe myself as having like big city dreams
Just
in a
city
way.
girl is what you always say.
I grew up on a farm with cows and pigs, which I loved. I really enjoyed growing up on a farm. I think it really gave me a good work ethic and gave me like a deep love for animals. But I was very ready to leave. When I started looking at colleges, I knew I had to go to an in-state school just for financial reasons. But I chose IUPUI, which is located in Indianapolis, because it was the biggest city. I looked at IU and some other places, and it still felt too rural to me. And I just really wanted to be in an urban area. And then I think, studying at IUPUI, in a lot of ways, it was like kind of a culture shock. It was the first time I was around people of different ethnicities and backgrounds on a daily basis. It definitely was the first time I made friends with people of different ethnicities and backgrounds and got to like listen and hear more about their experiences. I also think being an English ed major led me to reading and visiting a lot of places that I was required to take an African American lit or an indigenous lit courses. So I was exposed to a lot more of people's stories, and working in more urban schools, again, just being more exposed to those things. So while, yes, I did grow up in a white space, I do feel lucky that my experiences have led me to a more diverse community.
Well, I think that's the biggest difference between like you and the rest of the educators in your family too. Is like you didn't go back to wherever or stay wherever you grew up. It's like you kind of found your way out, and then not like in a running away sense, but found your way towards the city, and then found like passion and purpose in that space.
I mean, a lot of the educators in my family have had very short stints of working in urban schools, but I've definitely had my entire career, student teaching and career, all be in urban settings. And I do think that does give you a different lens in a lot of ways, not just from an educator.
Thank you for sharing. Mm-hmm. You could ask me a question?
Yes. Thoughts on knowing a biological relative for the first time as we are about to have our first baby?
Yeah, I feel like I've been talking about this a little bit on this show and the other show and in my newsletter. It's very interesting. I think it's quite frightening, to be honest. Something that I don't think that you think about until the moment arises. And as we get closer to it, I don't know. I've tried to like think about or guess what my reaction is going to be, and I don't really know. I'm assuming I'm just going to cry. I figured that's probably what's going to happen, but I feel like I've come so far in the last 3 years, but especially in the last like 6 months with just kind of understanding who I am and really like finding comfort and security in like my own identity in a different way than a lot of this other journey has been. And so I think before, even like if this would have happened a year ago, I think I would have been maybe one or the other extreme, like super, super scared, or like so excited that like, I have this opportunity finally to see somebody who might look like me a little bit. But I think right now I feel very calm. Even just about parenthood in general, I feel very calm and like I don't feel over prepared, but I don't feel underprepared. I feel the right amount of prepared.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel about, seeing a biological relation for the first time right now. Is just like, I feel really lucky and privileged to have that opportunity.
To see like yourself
Yeah.
reflected in another.
But I also don't feel like overly excited or like overly afraid of how that might affect me because I've done a lot of this like internal work over the last 3 years and especially the last 6 months, to feel like I'm more, I don't want to say even keeled, but just more like prepared. Even though I know like when it happens, I'll probably like freak out and like I'll be calling my therapist like, hey, we got stuff we need to talk about. I got some shit I need to work through. So that's a good question. All right. Which one do I want to ask you? Well, I guess I'll ask you this because I feel like people would like to know. And people have asked me, and it's good. I think this is one of the reasons I want to do this is like some of these questions I feel like are good to hear your perspective on when I've always had to share it. Like people are like, oh, what does Emily feel about this or this?
Yeah.
So what were you always open to me exploring my Asian American adoptee identity?
I think the short answer is yes, but I think it wasn't always uncomplicated.
Sure.
Yes, I've always been supportive and encouraged you to go as deep into this journey as you wanted to go. I do think there have definitely been moments, or it wouldn't be transparent to act like there haven't been moments of it feeling maybe overwhelming for both of us at different times and it bringing up lots of different emotions and things for both of us. I think also Patrick is when he does something at 150%. It's not a casual endeavor ever. So definitely I think that first year from that first moment of you starting to listen and read and reach out and find community, it went really quickly. It was very fast that you were head first into this and it took up a lot of your time. It dominated most of your conversations and things. And while that was very exciting, there were moments where it felt a little like overwhelming.
Sure.
But I would say, over the past 3 years, like you going on this identity journey and finding this community has done nothing but enrich our lives. You've gotten to know yourself more and all of the people that have came in and out of our lives through this community have been amazing. Everyone I've met, some of which I've now have my own friendship with, have been, really wonderful for me to learn from as well. There's been a lot of learning moments for me as like a spouse. I definitely was naive to a lot of adoptee issues before meeting you and before you going on your own journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think the short answer being yes.
The short answer, yes. The slightly longer answer, it's complicated.
Yeah, I think there nothing doesn't have, ebbs and flows of different things. And it's a traumatic event. It's a heavy event. And so it's going to come with, different things. And for any adoptee spouses out there, like, I see you, I understand, like there are varying emotions. I've definitely experienced like insecurities on my own, having feelings of like, will Patrick ever wish that he married someone Korean or that, those kind of my own insecurities. There's a movie, Past Lives, that I think came out this summer. I think it kind of touches on that topic. And I have yet to see it. I've heard it's great, and I do think it's something I'd love to watch at some point, but I think emotionally I'm a little nervous on how it might affect me. So I haven't watched that one yet, but
Yeah. Well, it's just the idea of different lives. That's been less of like, do I wish I married somebody else? I feel like mostly, not that you haven't had that thought or anything, or that's come across your mind, but also the idea of, do you just wish, or do I just wish that I had like a different life
yeah.
in general?
And which you've shared, is a common thing for adoptees to go through, is to play out different fantasies of lives.
Think about it.
Yeah.
After you go
in that what if, know.
100%. But it's hard to live in the hypothetical, and you can't, because it pulls you out of the present.
Right.
It's not that you can't or shouldn't think about it. It's that it's also like those different lives, those different timelines are things that you can't inhabit. And you can do certain things like to explore, but again, it's all part of the same life. It's not like something you can't just go be different in that way,
Well, and I just really need to really shout out this whole community. It's been nothing but warm and receptive to me. I've had the opportunity of being in spaces where I'm the other, and I've never felt othered. Even when we went to Korea, and which Korea is a very homogenous country, and I did not see many people of any other ethnicity. I never felt othered. I never felt singled out or anything. But also with understanding that not all spaces are for me, And
right. I mean, that's a good understanding. I think it's hard to reach that point sometimes for people. All right, ask me one more personal question, and then we're going to jump to both.
Okay. What is something that I, Emily, had to do to love you better during triggering moments? And that question was sent in, which I think was a really interesting.
All these questions that we're asking right now are sent in.
Yeah.
Don't make it seem like nobody sent in any questions.
Oh, well,
people watch this show.
I wanted to
and follow us on
I
social
really
media.
wanted to mention that question was sent in.
It is a very thoughtful question. I think one of the things that we had a really long conversation about was like not having to have an answer for something that I was going through. And I think it seems like a simple thing, like just that active listening to understand. But I think as I was going through this, it was very new. You're also going through your own journey, and it's hard to say sometimes to not try and help. Like, I'm like that when you have some issues or things going on. Like, I always sometimes try to like have an answer when it's really
solution based.
Yeah, when it's really like, I just need you to listen and shut the fuck up. Like, stop trying to like fix it. It's like, I just need to get this off my chest. And I feel like that was something we had to work through on my end. I don't think it's like you loved me like any better or worse during those moments. I think it was more like just seeing like where the appropriate or like how to just sit and listen, like kind of in your last answer, like in those uncomfortable times. And sometimes there's spaces that aren't necessarily for you, and it's just like, it's not that you're excluded or other, like purposely othered in that way. It's just experiences that aren't, something that you can experience in the same way I can't experience your experience. And just that active listening piece. I think you were already really good at it, but I think I was not doing any of this when we first met.
Right.
When we even like right before we got when did we get engaged? September of 2019. 2019. So I started this post engagement.
Yep.
And this was like a huge shift, not just in my own life, but our lives.
Yeah.
And I think like you said, I'm going 150% the whole time. And sometimes it is like, oh, I need you to do this or whatever. Like, you're just trying to figure it out too. And I think both of us learning that, like, sitting and listening and sitting in the discomfort of whatever it might be was really important to strengthen what we already have. And I think one of the things we always tooted our own horns about was our communication when we first got together. I think that was really tested for a minute. and I think we came out fairly well
Yeah.
on the other side of it
Yeah.
to be able to communicate, because it was more like, okay, we just got to listen instead of just being like, well, you should do this or you should do this, So I think that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for those questions, people who sent them in. We're going to get to a few of our both questions now, questions for both of us. And then we'll wrap up the episode. 48 minutes we've been going. We have a bunch of questions, so we could go for even longer, but I don't want to take up everyone's time like that. So, anyways, first question. What do I want to talk about here? Okay, we'll do a couple, one serious, and then we'll do a couple fun ones. Have we discussed future conversations with how we're going to have future conversations with our son about being biracial and about me being adopted?
Yeah. I think so. I think we've talked about, our son being mixed race, and I think we've been pretty intentional about buying books that represent that, that we plan on reading, and knowing other mixed race people and trying to, I think that's something we're actively working on, is trying to get more mixed race people in our community, in our friend group. But yeah, I think we definitely are going to be very intentional about the schools that our son goes to. And yeah, as for adoption, I don't know if that we've specifically talked about it, but I know that we will. It's a huge part of your and I's life, and therefore he'll be along for the ride in that.
Yeah, I'll just say, hey, I have a podcast you can listen to. There's over 200 episodes now. Just listen to that, and then you'll hear me talk about it.
Yeah.
And then ask me questions if you want.
Yeah.
So that's every night I put my headphones up to Emily's tummy and just play that. And I'm like, all right, you just get all the information you need now.
Yeah. But, I do think it's conversations that we've already started to have, and I'm sure we'll have more once he's here, and definitely has a bigger grasp on things and has his own questions that maybe we haven't prepared for, and we'll have to answer in the moment. I think we've also had conversations with our family that have been important, because Patrick's parents have two children who are of a different race. I think they have a little bit more firsthand experience with comments that maybe are made around their kid, where, my parents don't have that. So this will be newer for them. And I've already kind of had some conversations about, if someone were to make a comment about our son or around our son, what are some actionable steps that we could take in that moment? What are some things I would hope you would do? What are some things you would do? So I think we're preparing in that way too, is making sure that hopefully can provide a very safe and open space for our son. And
yeah. I feel like the mixed race conversation is one that I've had a lot over the last few years. But one I hadn't thought about from a personal perspective until we started to we were oh, we're pregnant now, so we're gonna have this kid, and that's a perspective that I want to just continue to learn from. And so I'm already developing another podcast with Mixed Asian Media about that specific thing. But also I think it's about, I've talked on the show about having trouble exploring Korean culture for myself. I feel like that's something we'll end up doing together.
Yeah.
And something we've talked about is being a white person, American is not really a culture. What's my culture? And we've talked about, wanting to explore a little bit of those Germanic roots on your side. And I think that would be fun to do with our child too. And I think having that knowledge of our own personal histories a little bit more is a good way to broach those conversations as well, because it builds our own knowledge base as the same time as we're sharing and learning that knowledge together, and showing, oh, hey, like it's totally fine that you're both of these things.
Yeah.
You know, and you come from both of these places.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that question. That was a good question. All right. How have we been preparing for baby?
Shopping.
Shopping.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of things that you have to buy. It was kind of really overwhelming at first, like thinking about items that you need. But I have been told, and I do believe that just get the bare minimum, like get the
Sure.
things that you need. And like the baby marketing world, kind of like wedding, just because it has the word baby in it, I feel like it's like more
Right.
expensive. They're like telling you need all these things. So, but and as a first time parent, it's hard to know. It's hard to know, like, will that really impact me if I don't have that, or is that something I'm going to buy and never use? Also, every baby's different. So it's like, you don't know what they're going to like and what they will need. So yeah, preparing, I think like material wise, we've got a nursery and we've got our stroller and
Got pretty much everything that we need.
yeah, I think we're good.
And we've been taking
I would say like emotionally, I don't know if you really can fully prepare
Sure.
for something so life-changing.
Yeah.
Vlad has joined us for this portion of the conversation. That's our cat. Yeah, I don't know that you can fully prepare. I think we've both done a lot of individual work over the years. And this was definitely like something I think we always knew we wanted kids. I knew that Patrick was going to be a great dad from the moment I met him. And we both talked pretty early on in our relationship that we wanted children. We kind of timed it and planned it out even. So this wasn't something that there was no thought behind, but
yeah. Definitely all the material stuff, and we've been taking parenting class.
Yes.
So we have our last one tomorrow, the day before this episode comes out. And then we'll be ready. We'll be basically parents. So, no, I think agree on the emotional stuff. Like, I think the best thing that I did in preparation was start going to therapy, and that was not intentional from a parent perspective, just a personal one. And so I think that has been the biggest thing for me in terms of preparation. You were like the aesthetic person and the not the material person, but like the person who knows all the stuff and has done the most research on that. And so, like, very glad to hand those reins over to you from that perspective. And it's like, what can I do?
Yeah.
And I know from a personal perspective, it's like just doing that work on me.
I think the parenting classes which I feel very lucky, they are offered to us at our hospital for free, and that we've taken. They have been very informative.
Yeah.
We've got to tour the hospital, which was really nice. And also feel lucky that I've been able to chat with some other parents and ask questions. And I've learned a great deal from other, moms and stuff and taken their advice. And
yeah.
100%.
All right. 2 more questions, then we're going to wrap it up here. What's giving you the most anxiety about being a parent?
Just making mistakes or not having enough patience or like not doing the right thing.
It's all the normal stuff.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I mean, again, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know that you can like fully prepare for it.
I think that's right there is anxiety inducing. Knowing that you'll never be fully prepared.
Yeah. I do think like the classes that we've taken have calmed a lot of my anxiety. We talked about, different things that could happen and that like the instructor said, it wasn't meant to scare us. It's just to help us be informed.
Right.
So that has been really nice. But yeah, I think parenting is going to be really amazing, but I also think it's going to be really challenging. Um, and so, yeah, I guess I just hope that I can do
Yeah.
my best, and they
No, I feel the
they
same.
don't resent me when they're 30. No.
I feel the same way. Like talked about being calm, but I think if there is anxiety, it's all like when the baby is here, am I doing all the right things? Are we doing all the right things together? They're nonverbal for a lot of it, this infancy. So it's like, if we're doing something wrong, it's hard to say. Like they're not telling us, other than, and even if they're crying, it's like, oh, well, that's like what they're supposed to do.
Right.
So it's like, are we doing something wrong there? And just like, I think the other thing that I think about that's probably anxiety inducing a little bit is just like thinking really far down the line from a legacy standpoint. And I've been talking about like, I can work on myself. That's the legacy. And also there's like the community aspect of it and the like the work that I've done aspect of it, like from like a personal pride perspective. And then like, I guess that's probably it. Two of those things, the community and the life that we lead. Is that something that I feel like is worth it for them? I think it is, but also you never know because it's like so far in the future,
Right.
But it's like can't help but think about a lot of that future stuff.
Yeah.
When it comes to that. So, thank you for that question. I thought that was a really good question. Not going to get to all the questions, but am going to close it out with a fun one that has a bonus. So, what do we do for fun / date nights?
I would say travel. We both enjoy, I would say we're both pretty extroverted. Probably you more so than me. But
yeah, you say you called yourself a social person earlier, and I'm like, well, you also hide from the delivery person when you go.
That is different. Yeah, but I would say like we're both like really down for new adventure, and we like to try new things. If we hear of like a new restaurant or a new thing in Indianapolis, like we're always like, oh, we should go do that. We ride our bikes a lot, especially when it's nice out, going on walks. We like watching some shows. We're currently rewatching Breaking Bad. Tonight is the last episode, and I totally forget what happened, so I'm really excited. But yeah, I don't think that that's ever something we've struggled with. I think our entire relationship is based off friendship, and I think we came together through friendship and like shared interest. So I think we genuinely like enjoy each other's company and like hanging out. So
we do a lot of hiking, a lot of biking, play board games at home. We're homebodies a little bit too.
A little bit more now. I would say like pre-COVID, like music was a huge part of our relationship. A lot of shows.
Yeah, we do a lot of those things. And I'm so glad you brought up Breaking Bad because I was going to say, we have a lot of different tastes, but we do find ourselves some commonalities in shows. And right now, Breaking Bad is that show. We have been rewatching it over the last few weeks, and we have reached the final episode that we'll be watching after we record this or after we finish this recording. I wanted to ask you because I want to ask you this question because I want to answer the question.
Okay.
I want you to give us your Walter White hot take.
Jesse is the heart of the show.
That is not about Walter White.
Yes, it is. It's a foil. Jesse's the heart of the show. I mean, obviously, when anyone talks about Breaking Bad, they talk about character development, and the evolution that Walt goes on is unlike a lot of any TV show that came before it. But yeah, I mean, as the show progresses, you can tell like through his dressing and the lighting, like Walt becomes way more evil, and he's pretty evil. I'm not a Walt hater like you are.
I'm like, that's the most mild take I've ever heard in my life. That's not even a hot take. That's just a description of the show.
Yeah, because I don't have like loaded feelings
All right,
towards
well,
Walt.
then I'm going to answer the question. That's why
I still
asked it
have
in
a
the
bit
first
of,
place.
I don't know. I guess I still have a bit of like understanding and empathy for the situation.
I ran out. Ran out right as season 2 started.
Patrick hates Walt.
I've been a big Walter White hater. I think it was like season 3. I was like bitch made. Like I was like, he's been bitch made for sure. Like Walt is. I don't know. But that's a testament to the writing of the show. Like it's so good and the acting that Bryan Cranston does. But I'm just like, man, I hate Walt.
He's
like,
all
I hate
ego.
seeing him on the screen. I hate hearing him talk. Everything that he goes through, I'm like, you could have avoided all this if you just took some accountability.
Yeah, he's all ego, and he's driven by power, but it's because he didn't have that before. Season 1, it's so clear.
That,
he had no power.
But he's still a straight up bitch for the stuff that he does.
He had no power over his life and no voice. And so this is making up for all those times.
I'm not giving him a pass. Great writing on the show. Great character development. Jesse's a great character. R.I.P. Combo. He was a good character. Then that was all Walt too. In a roundabout way. Pushing into the wrong territories. Anyways, that was what I wanted to ask. Okay, I actually have one more question, and then we're going to close it out. This is a specific one for you, and I thought this question was funny, so I wanted to ask you, what's my most embarrassing moment that you can share publicly?
The thing is, Patrick doesn't get embarrassed, or at least he doesn't perceive to be embarrassed very easily. Where I'm kind of the opposite. I feel like I can get embarrassed pretty easily.
That's true.
I don't know. Your most embarrassing moment.
I have a bunch of them.
You have
I'm not going to tell. I'm not going to share them here.
Well, that's not fair.
Okay, I will share one. You want me to share one?
Sure.
Okay, so I don't remember when this was. Before we were together, I think. Yeah, it was before we were together. I was in Chicago, and it was during the winter, and there was a jacket from Columbia. They always do the Star Wars collaboration. And I was like waiting for the link to drop to get it because I knew like it would sell out in an instant. And I'd been at a friend's house. We were drinking, and I was like, okay, I got to go outside and wait for this and like get it. And I was waiting, and I was like, oh man, I got to pee real bad. And so I'm waiting, and I'm finally like, okay, it's open. And I start to place the order, and I'm placing the order. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to pee. I'm like, okay, I just got to get to the end. And I hit pay, and it says, it's like buffering and loading. And it goes, you were too late, essentially, is what it said. Like, I didn't get the coat. And I was so furious that I just peed my pants right there on the side of the street, trying to wait to get this coat. And it was very embarrassing because I had to go back into the party where there was a bunch of people I didn't know.
That's super embarrassing.
And I didn't even get the damn coat.
Dang.
That was
Sorry.
Yeah, I felt like that was pretty embarrassing. So
that's pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, it's all right. And from then on, I have not bought one of their coats, even though I like everything that they drop. So, Emily, I appreciate you coming on to the show and sharing so vulnerably with us and just being my wife, being the mother of our kid that's not here yet.
Yeah.
And being the mother of Vlad, who loves me now more than he loves you.
It's rude.
I guess I do have one final question for anybody out there listening and watching right now. How do we best support you going forward? How can we support you as a new mom? I ask everybody this question.
Oh.
You would know if you listened to the show.
I don't know, by supporting Patrick's work indirectly supports me and our child and our future. But also, any moms out there, if you ever want to hang out, I'm looking for some mom friends, or, like people just being there to answer questions that I might have or just have a community with. Now that I'm about to go on maternity leave, I'm hoping to travel with you a bit more, and go to some more events. Just like logistically, it hasn't been able to work out as much the past 3 years. So hopefully I'm able to meet more people that you've connected with online. That would be great. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I will link her Instagram here in the show notes for people.
At Emily Jimley.
At Emily Jimley. We won't get into the backstory of that handle because I don't really remember it, but I kind of do. We don't have time.
Okay.
We've run out of time.
Sorry.
We've run out of time to talk about that. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you do for me and for us and everything you do for the world. And I'm proud and happy to be married to you. I'm excited to be a parent with you. And I appreciate you coming on the show and giving us this extended episode, extended conversation.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for second time podcasting with me. I appreciate it. For everybody else out there listening, I don't think I have links to stuff in the show notes this week besides what she just talked about. Oh, I will link to our baby registry if you want to buy some gifts. That'd be great. I will link that down there. She's saying no, but I'm going to. If you want to connect with the show, you can do so on Instagram at Conversation Podpiece. If you want to connect with me directly, you can do so at Patrick in the World. As we wrap up the year, would love if you have enjoyed the show, if you could leave us a rating or review wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. Love if you could follow and subscribe to us on YouTube as well. And last but not least, if you have anything else that you want to talk about, you can go onto our website to find it, conversationpeacepod.com. We have a really exciting episode next week to follow this one up to close out 2023. It's going to be our holiday spectacular, where we go over your top 5 episodes of Conversation Piece of 2023. Until then, this has been Emily Armstrong, my wife. I had to get one in there. I am the titular Patrick, and this has been Conversation Piece. See you soon.